So everyone's finishing up their journal. You have written today's date, of course, in your journal. So when I check these, it'll be obvious where the distinctions and the different days are. You definitely drew a circle. You could have done concentric circles by picking a center point and then just making a whole bunch of circles. Again, rotation is your friend. Make it a little bit bigger. Do another one. Okay, so it's kind of light, but you can maybe see it. Anyways, and then you wrote a sentence explaining the easiest way, if you were going to tell somebody how to use this thing without them making an ugly circle, right? Without, no offense to anyone but circles, just some are more visually, aesthetically pleasing to the eye than others, right? So a good circle, we talked about. Okay, those are good circles. All right. So hopefully through trial and error, you learned something about how to use this. So I will, when I give everyone's attention, I will just let y'all know a few things. These are admittedly cheap, meaning they're probably literally cheap, and they're also easy to break, and they're also easy to not be effective. What do I mean? So the compass should be tight in the sense of you shouldn't be able to like pull it apart very easily, and the pencil should not be moving up and down. So if it is, we have the magic tool to tighten it up. We have a screwdriver, and you can see the axis. There's a screw, so we can tighten that up. And if the pencil's moving, then you can, and if the pencil is moving, you can tape it. I know that's, yeah, it is what it is. So, all right, so all that to say, you have some experience using a compass, which obviously makes circles, right? So yesterday we used the protractor, which is for measuring angles and making angles. And back before I was teaching, okay? I don't want any of y'all to think that this was when I was teaching, but they had these big wooden compasses to make circles on the chalkboard. So they were going to throw them away, and I was like, that's cool. That's history, I guess. So there's that. It's decoration in my room. But I got 2 of them, so. Okay, so here we go. We're going to transition into our notes packet. So you grabbed it on the way in. It says constructions, so let's get to some constructions. Okay. All right, we are going to get started. At the top of this sheet, it says constructions, okay? And the first blank is also construction, okay? So a construction is a geometric drawing that uses a limited set of tools, usually a compass and a straight edge. So today on the way in, you grabbed a compass and a protractor. We are not using the protractor for any of these numbers on it. The only thing we need it for is the straight edge. Okay? So straight edge and compass, you can use a compass and a straight edge to construct a segment that is congruent to a given segment and an angle that is congruent to a given angle. That's our goal in this packet. So look at these steps here. Step 1 says to draw a segment. Step 2 says to measure the length. And then step 3 says to copy. So, let's go ahead and do that. We are going to copy this segment right here, AB. So first we're going to draw a segment with our straight edge. So it says to do the construction in this space below, so let's do that. We're going to make a long segment. It doesn't need to be this long, but I just don't want you to make it too short, so we'll make a long segment, okay? And we need a starting point, so you can put it at the end, or you can put it anywhere on there, okay? So far we've drawn a segment, and we put a point on it, and now we are supposed to measure the length. Now, that word measure, usually you think of like measuring with a ruler or a whatever, okay? But this measurement is done, as you can see in the picture, it is done with a compass, okay? So, let's measure with our compass. So, just so you know the technical terminology, I'm calling this the pointy point. And this is the pencil point, okay? So, what I want you to do is take your pointy point and your pencil point and put it at A and B, respectively. We are measuring the distance with our points. Pointy point, pencil point. Okay, and after doing that, we've measured it. Now we're going to copy it. So now take your pointy point and put it on your other pointy point down here. Technical terminology, right? But seriously, put this measurement, pointy point goes there, and then all you got to do is lightly drag your pencil across, and you will have a little arc. And that, my friends, is a copy of that segment. You can put a point where that intersection is, and you can label it AB because that is segment AB. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a minute or two. I want you to try that on the bottom there. Do the exact same thing using this segment AB. You're going to have to do the same 3 steps. Draw a segment, measure the length, copy it, down here in this space provided. Go ahead and do that now, please. Okay, so it should have looked like this. You should have started with a segment, put a point, measure put your point to point from A to B. Sorry, so you can see it. Measure from A to B like this. Sorry, and then come down here and mark it. Okay, so that point to that point is AB. A copy of AB. Now, I want you to flip that over and try 1, 2, and 3 on the other side. Some of it we haven't talked about yet, but y'all are smart and clever, and I think y'all can figure out 2 and 3 on this one. Okay? So give it a shot. We'll talk about it in a minute. All right. So if you were stuck, we can unstuck you. We're going over it right now, so check it out. Number 1. Again, I like to make a long segment. CD. So y'all measured from C to D using your compass, right? So here's CD. So after I measure CD, I bring it down here, mark it from the point I had, and that's my CD. Okay? So most everyone got that. However, this is where it starts getting different, but it's not that bad. You're going to add segments together, and just like if you were adding measurements together, okay, they become one whole. So you're just putting those 2 segments literally right next to each other. So let's do that with A, B, and EF. So AB. Okay, so I measure AB with my compass. I come down here, and I mark it. Got A, B. And then I need EF, which is up here. So I'm going to measure that. And yeah, EF is going to go literally right after AB. So my pointy point goes at B. And I make my mark. Okay? So I got E, F. Now, what do you think we do with 2 CD? What should we do? Okay, CD, just 2 times, right? So let's do that. Let's measure CD. Come down here, mark it once. Can you see that? No, you can't. All right, sorry. So I put my point, I mark it once for CD, and I immediately bring it to the end, and mark it again. 2 CD. Okay. So y'all are able to copy a segment. Everyone's able to copy a segment. Okay. So let's move on to the next thing we have on the next page. Bisect a segment. Now, all the instructions are on there, so let's follow along. It says to bisect a segment or find the midpoint or the perpendicular bisector. First of all, do we know what bisect means? Okay, so we know bi is the prefix for 2, sect is to cut, bisect cuts into 2 equal parts, right? So not to be confused with dissect, but that's when you bisect something that already died. Dissect. I'm just kidding. I made that up. So, but don't tell your, well, you can tell your science teacher that. Funny joke. Ha ha ha. But seriously, draw an arc is our first step. Okay. So we're drawing an arc, and I'm going to add a little step right here. When you draw an arc, it needs to be past halfway. We're writing that just to emphasize for ourselves. It does say it right here, greater than half, right? So that's important. And then we're also going to draw a second arc, okay? It needs to be the same arc, all right? From the other side. So we have an arc past halfway, the same arc from the other side past halfway, and you'll see together they make 2 intersection points, and we can connect them. That's when we bisect them, we connect them with a line, okay, a segment. All right, so draw an arc, draw a second arc, bisect. Let's do that together so you can see it. Let's get a little zoom in going. All right, step 1, draw an arc. Now, I want you to take your compass, okay, and I want you to put your pointy point at A and your pencil past halfway. You can think about 3/4 of the way, okay? So does everyone see where my pencil is, okay? You are going to make a rather large arc. You could think of it like a half circle, semicircle, okay? Boom. You can rotate the paper however you want to do it, okay? But you should be able to make an arc past halfway. And what you're going to do is, you're not changing this distance right here. This needs to remain the same distance. But you are going to switch hands or switch over to put the pointy point at B. And then you're going to do the same thing from the other side. It should cross twice. Okay, it kind of looks like a sideways Jesus fish. What you're going to do next is bisect it. So you're going to connect this intersection and this intersection with your straight edge. So let's draw a line from point to point. Ideally, it should look, and it should be, a perpendicular bisector, which means this is the same as this. It's a right angle, and it goes through this point called the midpoint, okay? So that is how you bisect a segment. Arc, arc, line, essentially. So I want you to try that down here. Zoom out. Try to do that where you do past halfway arc, same arc on the other side, connect it with a segment on the bottom there. Were you able to do it right here? Again, here's a little faster version of this. Past halfway. And then we connect it with a segment. Okay. So I want y'all to try on the next page. Numbers 4, 5, and 6. I really want you to think about 6 on your own, so I'll come around and help you as needed. Let's see it. Okay, some people are still working, but I'm going to show you these anyway. So is everyone listening? Everyone's listening. So number 4, again, you went past halfway. If you went too far past halfway, it went off the page. So again, you can make it a little smaller, and it should work. Okay. Boom. Okay. So you can connect those intersections, and then on number 5, again, you just go past halfway. Can you see that? Yeah. Size of what? The arc? It just has to be past halfway. Yeah, even if it did it very big, you get the same exact thing. Okay. Now, number 6, the puzzler. Okay, so if you want 4 equal parts, and all we've learned today is 2 equal parts, what would we have to do? Yes. Very good. So basically, you cut your... Everyone listening? Everyone else listening? So, if you can cut a segment in half, you can cut that new half in half. And the other half in half. So really you're doing 3 midpoints. Okay? That will give you 4 equal parts. So, speed run. I should do it where you can see. Okay, and then this half, let's cut that half in half. If you have to. Did y'all catch that joke? Cut the half in half, and then you have a quarter. Cut the other half in half, you got another quarter. Ta-da! Question. How do we do what? Okay, so if you go barely past halfway, it'll look smaller. Now, look. You could do it. You could go way past halfway, like way out here, but it's might be off the page. So just a little bit past halfway works. Yeah. And see, either of those work. That's fine. But hold on. Okay, 1 second. If you were able to cut any segment in half, we've succeeded because you know what to do, okay? If you're a perfectionist and you don't like the way it looks, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Let's go to the next page. Copying an angle, please. It says at the top, use the following steps to construct an angle that is congruent to angle A. In this construction, the radius of an arc is the distance from the point where the compass point rests to a point on the arc drawn by the compass. Okay, so here's our rules, here's our steps. We are going to first draw a segment. Then we're going to draw arcs. Okay, they are going to have the same radius, meaning this arc and this arc are going to be the same. They're going to match. Then you need to measure this. Okay, this is where the change happens. I'm going to measure at this point and draw new arcs. Okay, and then we draw a ray. So you can read those. as much as you want, but let's see a demonstration. That always works best. So I have an angle here, and I need to make a new angle that's the exact same. We are not going to measure it with our protractor, okay? Sorry, I know we learned that yesterday, but we are constructing today. Construction means this is only for straight lines, right? So anyways, here's our angle. Step 1, draw a segment. So down here, everybody, let's draw a segment. And put a point at the end of it so you know where your vertex is going to be. Now, this says draw arcs. I'm telling you, the arc, whatever the measurement is for your arc doesn't really matter, but it does have to match on both. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my pointy point at the vertex. And I'm going to make arcs on both of them. So here's an arc. Do you see how it goes through both rays? And I'm going to take this exact same measurement. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to put the pointy point on my other point and make arcs, or make an arc. The original length doesn't matter, but they do have to match. So everybody, look. Random measurement. I made an arc here, and it's the same arc here. These arcs are the exact same. Okay? So again, this and this are the same. Now, this next step is crucial, okay, because I have some people who keep it the exact same, but it must change. Gotta do this quickly. So here's what you're going to do. You are going to change your compass. Change, okay? And what you're going to do is measure from this intersection to this intersection. So everyone look at my compass right here. Do you see what I'm measuring? You're going to take that over to this intersection on the right, and you're going to make an X. X marks the spot. So again, look right here. This is what I measured just now. This is the X I made. You could even make the X on the left-hand side, so you say, oh, I see where that next line is going to go through. Okay? Last step is you draw a line from this vertex through that intersection. And by golly, that's a congruent angle. Okay? Let's do one more together, and we're not packing up until we finish this one. So flip it over to number 1. Let's do number 1 together. Okay, first step, what do we do? So go ahead and draw a segment. Put a point. Now, our first 2 arcs are the same. They can be whatever you want them to be, okay? So I got my first arc like this. And I'm going to come over to the other vertex point, and I'm going to make the same arc, make it big, okay? We're not packing up yet, sorry. So make this big. We're almost done, okay? So everyone made a segment, and you have matching arcs. Now we must change the compass, okay? And we're going to measure from intersection to intersection. Right here, you see that? If you want to, you can make that mark there, because you're going to come over here and make the same mark. X marks the spot.